buying that airport food.
Airport food.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive. It's almost as expensive. What do you think? Airport food, ballpark food? What's worse?
I don't really go to sports games.
Sports games. Sports.
I'm not a big sports ball guy.
Sports ball.
Yeah.
That's, you are from Austin after all, so.
We don't have any team for anything.
Well, other than Texas Rangers and Houston Astros.
That's Houston.
Yeah, I know, but it's
Texas Rangers is.
You never
in
say,
Austin.
"Oh, look at me, I'm from Austin." You don't have an Austin flag on your wall. You have a Texas flag on your wall.
Where
What kind
are
of
the
Texan
Texans?
are you?
Arlington, Texas.
Yeah, they're in Arlington.
Not Austin.
They used to be the Arlington Rangers or something like that, I think.
But that's in Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Really? Yeah, I know.
Right. Not Austin.
I know. It's because you're from Austin, which is in Texas, as we've established. I've tried to establish.
It is the capital of Texas.
The capital, capital schmapital. No one cares. Anyway, well, we've been recording, by the way. Did you notice that I hit the record button?
Yeah, I did
All right,
notice. Did
cool.
you not notice that I'm on, that I'm in game face?
Game face. Mason has a game face. Well, it's true you do. You have a game face. Welcome, everybody, to a Thursday Unauthorized Caucus. It's Thursday. It's noon. However, a total admission, as you've just heard, we use the word recording. It's not Thursday at noon. We have a special thing going on today, and actually we're in two different directions. So this is technically Wednesday, the day before. But the conversation and content is still very relevant, and we will, of course, well, you may be on, we'll try to be on the live chat. So entertain each other if you don't mind. In the meantime, we're going to make sure this video actually hits live so that all of you get the notification. But we're running several different directions. Today in D.C., tomorrow in D.C., whichever it is that you're watching this.
The
Thursday,
day you're watching.
The day you're watching in D.C., we have an annual event on patents and intellectual property. This is something Phyllis Schlafly cared about quite a bit. And it's kind of off the radar. Like, everyone knows her for pro-life, beat the feminists, and all the different things, defense and anti-communism. But her dad was an inventor. Phyllis Schlafly's father was, I believe, a patent holder on a small, I forget what kind, a small type of engine or a motor, I believe. If John Schlafly were here, he'd correct me. I should know that off the top of my head.
He usually watches, and he probably will correct you.
Does he watch? He's never told me that he watched. John, you should let us. No, I'm kidding.
He's corrected me on things before.
Oh, has he?
I
good.
I have perfect factual accuracy.
Perfect factual accuracy. Well, he'll let us know. Because patents and intellectual property are a very key part. This is actually the only time in the Constitution proper, not the amendments, that the word right is used. The right of inventors and creators to keep the fruits of their labor, essentially, their intellectual rights over their property. And we're the only nation in the world that has established this in the way that we have. So you want to know why America has been the center of innovation, and innovation has taken off so much in the last 250 years that we've been here versus the other thousands of years of human history. Welcome to what looks like when a nation says you're allowed to have the rights to this. The intellectual property holder should benefit from it. Whoom, off goes the free markets.
And the right to intellectual property is actually named after the Wright brothers because they were inventors.
Welcome to your Babylon Bee segment. Thank you to Mason. Yeah.
No, it's
fake news, people.
Yeah.
No. But it is. It's incredibly important and integral to who we are as the United States of America and to our Constitution. And yet, it kind of gets relegated off to the world of policy wonks, and we talk about this and that and the other. And a lot of the ins and outs of it are, I'm not going to say boring, but very tedious for the normal person. It's not flashy. But the weird thing is, this is your first patent event to go to, right? I've been doing these for a few years now, and when you go, what's really interesting is the crowd is not Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. There's this very interesting bipartisan group. And if you get it, you understand why intellectual property matters and where its place is in America, you get it. So we've always had, at times we've had 2 awards to give out, and one is a Republican senator, one is a Democrat senator. Chris Coons got an award the same year as Tom Tillis, I believe, both the Phyllis Schlafly Friend of the American Inventor Award, because both of them saw and understood this issue and said that this is key and important to our prosperity and freedom in America. Cool. Like, I can't agree with Chris Coons on almost anything else, but awesome. This is important. So it's always just been this little beacon that people in D.C. in the patent policy community know who Phyllis Schlafly was, and she cared about this issue. But then that's almost removed from so much of the rest of the big matriarch of conservatism, Phyllis Schlafly, that we know. Who knew? So it's kind of neat, and that's what's going on today and tonight. There's a big policy briefing and then a dinner, phyllisschlafly.com/patents. You can see the link, or you can see the flyer that's going on, and then of course, photos and other stuff will be up, and we'll have a recap of the event. It's pretty neat. Take a look at it. But we wanted to talk about patents just a touch today, why it matters, some of the main things that you hear, because this really does connect into the world of what we're all worried about now, China and American freedom and prosperity, which Biden's ripped out as far as he can, and all that stuff. So we wanted to cover a little bit of that today on a little bit of a shortened caucus for you as we are scurrying around getting ready for this event, but it's important to talk about. So.
And well, before your eyes glaze over, because we are talking about patents, because it does seem like a boring topic, but we should raise the stakes. Explain what the stakes are of having a proper and functioning patent system.
You bought steaks?
I would love a steak, but
go ahead.
An airport steak.
An airport? Oh, no.
No, I do not want an airport steak. Patents. Essentially, nothing would work without patents. That's one of the funny things, because when I see the fundamental difference. One of the fundamental differences between the United States economy being a booming and powerful economy versus the Chinese economy, which is known for its extremely cheap and widespread manufacturing. What sets the U.S. apart, and a lot of the Western nations apart, but especially the U.S., is the entrepreneurial spirit, kind of the idea that you're going to take risks, and by taking those risks, you're opening yourself up to the opportunity to make profit. That's how the entire business system works. And patents are a big part of that, because not only are you just taking a financial risk with a business venture, but you're taking a risk with your time and with your energy in developing something new, creating a new product of some kind. And patents ensure that the inventor of this product is going to get the fruits of their labor. They're going to be able to actually profit off of what they've made and what they've contributed to the economy. So if that doesn't exist, if we take that away, people don't have an incentive to create something like the electric toothbrush, or Elon Musk's new batteries for his cars. I mean, we're not big EV fans, but things like that.
Well, I mean, why do you think Elon Musk is in America?
Right,
These
exactly.
folks come to America because there is an incentive to create and innovate, because there's going to be market share created. Welcome to, there's not a fixed pie, and it has to be redistributed. Redistributed, wow. It has to be redistributed. My gosh, I just did it again. Okay, we're going to move on from that word. The socialist concept of the anti-free market thing, this is the proof that that's actually bunk. Because inventors and creatives and writers, they come here because there is a freedom and an incentive to create, and then you get the fruits of that labor. I mean, before now in human history, it's largely, your stuff belongs to the state. When you get something like this, you all work for the government. Well, there's no incentive there to actually do better and more and different. It's gone.
Well, I do think that patents, to a degree, are a big government type of thing. They are kind of contrary to the principles of the free market, but I think that they are a necessary component to having a growing economy with increased technological advancements. Because if you think about basic economics, the reason property and prices exist is because of scarcity. We have to be able to allocate scarce resources properly. Ideas aren't scarce. I mean, you can copy paste something a bajillion times on a computer. So what we have to do, therefore, because they're not scarce on their own, because you can endlessly duplicate the same idea, we have to grant a monopoly. That's what a patent is.
Right.
That's what copyright is. It's a monopoly. And a lot of people think that's a big, scary word. Oh, we shouldn't have monopolies. You think of Teddy Roosevelt and antitrust, but that's a different kind of monopoly. It's still somewhat the same. The government does grant you the exclusive right to something, and you have full control over this tiny corner of the market, but this is a necessary monopoly for the economy to function properly and for innovation to continue.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with what it's about. This is about basically guaranteeing small-time inventors and idea people protection from big mega corporations who really, they can come in and swoop in. And this gets into the whole area of patent trolls.
Right.
But you're giving exclusivity. I think that's the constitutional word. I was going to pull it up. Where did it go here? I wanted to make sure. There it is. We are down into the powers of Congress, Section 8, Article 2, right? I'm sorry, Article 1, Section 8. I should have this all memorized by now, but Article 1, Section 8 is where you find that Congress is given the power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. That is the actual Article 1, Section 8. We know Article 2 is the president. They're taking over everything, but they're not going to take over my mind. Article 1, Section 8, to grant authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. This is a government protection against something. I mean, this is often what government is. It's restraining. Our Constitution is restraining and giving government their lanes. And here they're defining a lane for a small-time, creator to have that kind of protection, that kind of right. So it really, you're right, it is kind of, in a sense, big government, but it is a good kind of government. This is one of the functions that matters and has mattered and made, who we are in large part. So there's a lot to look at here, but one thing that I want to get into briefly, because we talk about this quite a bit. I mean, the globalists don't like patents. They don't like U.S. patents because not only similarly, I'm trying to think how to say this. Similarly to how patents and intellectual property systems in America grant exclusivity to the inventor or the creator, when the U.S. has a bunch of these patents, it's contained inside the sovereign nation. That grants some major exclusivity of technology and power, essentially, to the United States. So when you look at the whole globalist versus nationalist kind of argument, this has always been one of the big things to try to shift the U.S. Patent Office and mischievously get chinks in the system, because globalists want to give away U.S. patents. They want that technology to be given away to the world, and some other countries just plain steal it, which is one of the directions we can go and head to here. But as we talk about this, we realize this ties into that national sovereignty the issue that we harp on so much. Like to me, in my mind, this really hooks into national sovereignty in a big way because of how it's being exploited. Intellectual property theft by China. That you Google that and you'll find article after article, and this has gone on for decades now. And then there are others who just want us to give it away as well instead of have it to benefit our nation. This goes right back to the issue of national sovereignty, which doesn't matter if we're talking about borders and immigration or the Constitution. Sovereignty really is the key principle that we're looking at. What makes a nation sovereign, and also in this case, what makes you an individual, your ideas, sovereign in the marketplace. That's, you can kind of think of it that way to try to boil it down to the principle underneath it all.
Yeah.
We've got a good, I'll point you to phyllisschlafly.com/patents, like I said, is where the event information is. But we also have, if you go to phyllisschlafly.com/one-pagers, there you will find a very good section of little one-page things that we have come up with, whether it's different issues that our Eagles have asked us for over the years, from ranked choice voting to the ERA, renewed ERA fight, to all kinds of different stuff. You'll find little one-page fact sheets if you're looking. Intellectual property has a really good one there. It talks about the history. It's got some, Thomas Jefferson, the issue of patents for new discoveries has given a spring to invention beyond my conception. This was on their mind. I mean, a lot of our founding fathers were inventors themselves. Washington held, how many patents?
I don't know.
I think, didn't Washington hold patents?
This is the first I'm hearing of this, if you did.
Maybe not. I know that George Washington was an inventor. Like, he had designs and creations. I'm not sure if he actually held patents, but there are essentially, to boil it down, there are far too few politicians who are inventors and I don't think actually, as I'm saying that, it's not Washington. There were, I forget who, but there was a notable couple of presidents. I know Abraham Lincoln had a patent, at least one, and we actually, in June, I think it is. I forget when we celebrate that, but there's just so very few of them that were, the folks who moved into the political realm who are patent holders, who were intellectual property creators, because lawyers are leeches, not creators to the system. I'm kidding. I'm kidding for any of the lawyers watching. No offense, especially to our bosses, because we work for lawyers anyway. But I mean, Tom Massey. He's one of our current congressmen from Kentucky's 4th. Congressman Thomas Massey is an inventor. He holds, I don't even know how many patents now. and some of them are hilarious. It's one of the reasons I love. You can go back on our YouTube page and see past years of the patent event. But Tom Massey has, like he has a farm.
The Cluck capacitor.
The Cluck's capacitor. Yeah. He has a farm at home, and he wanted a way for his chickens to be able to be covered by their cage so they weren't, picked up by the chicken hawks. But then he also needed to move them around fresh grass and water. So he devised a motor to essentially pick up this giant cage and move it inch by inch across the lawn into different places and on their little homestead.
Yeah.
And it also released water, and it's got a little solar generator, but he created a motor to run this, and he patented it, and he calls it the Cluck's capacitor. And then he sells it now. He actually has it, like the last I heard a couple years ago or last year, he had it working on like 10 different farms. They were testing out and tweaking it, and then he was going to sell it. And of course, he, being the Cluck's capacitor and the fantastic nerdiness that he is, I love him. He had down like there was the Cluck's Deluxe, which held up to so many birds, and then he was thinking of names like the Coupe or Coupe de Ville or something.
That's funny.
That did smaller ones. But I mean, this is a guy who comes up with issues and problem solving and applies it and takes advantage of our system. It's incentivized for him. But that's the kind of, ingenuity you look at. All we see anymore are politicians who get into the system to leech off of it, not people who have created into the economy and then decided, hey, you guys are jerking us around. I'm going to come and do something about this for a while. Now, I love that. And Phyllis Schlafly did too. That's why patents and intellectual property holders made such good people to enter the political realm, because they're problem solvers. They're not just here to do whatever the system is. They're here to say, no, this stinks. I want to do something different. Let's figure it out. Yeah. It's a really neat, it is uniquely American. God bless it.
But intellectual property is more than just patents. There's also copyright. There is, copyright's one of the big ones. Is there another one I'm forgetting? I learned about all these in an economics class. But copyright, I think, is an important one. When you see, trademark. Yeah, that's the other one. Copyright, you see that little C symbol in a next to or in a book or in a movie or something like that. That means that the right to copy that belongs to the publisher. And something that has started happening in recent years due to the rising tide of radical leftism is they are essentially living out the plot of 1984 by taking books whose copyrights expired, because I think it's something like 70 years after the death of the author, the copyright expires for that. And I think that there are some cases where the trust, renews the copyright or something like that, but in most cases the copyright expires, which I kind of like, because that means, we can find like old books online for free. We don't have to, use sketchy site 123.xyz to find old books for free. They're just on there. The PDFs are just up there. But with some old books, these left-wing independent publishers are republishing them, but making them more inclusive and making the language more politically correct, which I think indicates that we do need a little bit more of a bolstering of the power of copyright law, because copyright law is good because it protects the work of the author, but if it eventually stops protecting the work of the author and allows people to destroy it and start hurting their legacy, I don't think that's a good thing. That's bad for our cultural heritage. That's bad for learning history properly. So, but it is a really special thing that we do at all have a system in the United States where somebody's legacy, they have rights over their legacy even after they die, at least for some time. I just think it should be a bit longer than 70 years, maybe something like 200 years.
But yeah, there's definitely, that's the thing. The conversations around this keep going on. By the way, I'd like to clarify. I knew I had something crossed. Abraham Lincoln is the only U.S. president to hold a patent. Washington used the third patent that was ever filed, because that started in 1790. The first patent was granted in July of 1790. He used the third ever patent, which was a new method of manufacturing flour and meal. He bought it and used it at Mount Vernon. That's what I had in my head about Washington, because I knew he wanted it, he called for it, he signed it, and actually the president signed every patent in the first day, in the first, the little bit there. That's kind of neat. They weren't numbered.
Still going on.
And the Patent Act of 1790 required each patent to bear test by the President of the United States, so he signed them. Yeah. But he bought the third one. I knew he was an avid entrepreneur and did all kinds of things at Mount Vernon. But that's what I had in my mind there. Let me say this: as far as the modern tinkering of it, there are really two specific areas I wanted to hit, and then we'll close it down here because, like we said, it's a crazy week. We're going to go with a little bit of a shorter episode, but let this serve as a an issue that you should have on your radar, even though it's kind of off the radar into the policy realm that none of us pay attention to or hear about much. But specifically, there are a couple of things. So, and we just did a great webinar on this, the Bayh-Dole Act. Senators Birch Bayh, a Democrat from, I think, Indiana, and then Senator Bob Dole, who we all know ran for president in the 90s as well. Those two were the two bipartisan authors of the Bayh-Dole Act, a big landmark piece of legislation that had to do with patents and intellectual property copyrights. That is continually being tinkered with by the executive agencies. The Biden administration has just made a couple of proposed changes to it through the agencies that execute it that are problematic as far as how you can come in and try to infringe or take away someone, the process of who gets there first and who gets it and how you prove if it's your invention or not. That is what is often contested. And let me say this key phrase is here, because this is where patent trolls comes in, which I think is a phrase that all of us have heard, even if we don't know what it means. Patent trolls who are just filing patents or getting in. America used to be a first to invent system, meaning the first person to invent something, you got there, you could get the patent for it. But in 2011, when Barack Obama signed the America Invents Act, the so-called America Invents Act, it switched America to a first to file system, which means that the patent goes to the first person to file it with the USPTO, the Patent and Trademark Office. So that favors big businesses who have huge corporations, tons of money, lawyers. They can just file paperwork with the government faster than an independent inventor can even get through the application. Before an invention is even perfected, they can file a patent. Bam, they're done. And the first to invent system that we used to have favors the independent inventors who have they've got to ensure that the invention is workable before they can afford to spend very limited resources on trying to file all the paperwork for it. So this is kind of where you start to get into the realm of patent trolls and places who are just spinning up patents. They can do it and trying to get people to pay for them. I'm not going to try to overarchingly talk about it almost because it's complicated and I don't want to give inaccurate information, but this is that world, first to file versus first to invent. And we've made a very distinct switch in the last 20 years here in America to that first to file, which has caused a lot of rub between big corporations and little corporations. And this is now also where you're seeing, like a lot of the stories that I pulled up, big pharma is very much under the gun for drug prices and different things. They are abusing the patent system, and there's a lot of exclusivity that goes with it. I know specifically this is one thing that the new Bayh-Dole, what do they call it, the march-in policies, like when you can, we have a great webinar on this. Go to our YouTube page and look it up. The Bayh-Dole march-in changes from the Biden administration. We just did it. And actually, if you want to be on an exclusive one, let me dump this in here. Email me. Email us, unauthorizedcaucus@phyllisschlafly.com. We have an exclusive one coming up for some DC staffers, Capitol Hill staffers, and grassroots activists, specifically targeted toward them, a very exclusive webinar. You can hop on, different than the last one. I think that's on May 31st. Email me. We'll make sure you get in. It's a digital event. I would love to have our caucus listeners on there. You all are activists. So you can hear about what that means and have experts break it down for you, because again, it's a detailed issue. But this is where you see a lot of that kind of thing come into big pharma. There's a lot of exclusivities. And they'll file, companies will file as many as 150, 160 patents on any given single drug. This is called evergreening, I think is the terminology for it, which is a practice that lets you extend the patent basically by making small tweaks to it in order to deliver. Well, these practice of tweaks and different things, it kind of, basically it's a way to execute competition completely, get rid of them. And there's been a lot of talk around that. You start Googling patents and intellectual property. And then of course the other one is China. China stealing U.S. intellectual property and sneaking it out, espionage. This is no secret. China has stolen, I don't even know what the latest figures are, but untold, tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars worth of American intellectual property is stolen and given over. And our, U.S. presidents over time too have signed it away. Not the Trump administration with their tariffs, they played hardball, but so many of our presidents have signed away some of this stuff and just, you can borrow it and you have to give it back. And You can't copy it. Promise not to copy it. Stuff like ridiculous things like that. Where it's like, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
Of course they're going to.
Why do you think they wanted it in the
make
first place?
a copy of it and sure, we promised, we deleted that file.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm way oversimplifying, but that's the reality of what has happened. Often when we get in, especially to a Democrat presidency, we just sure, give it away. And it's like, no, this is the gold that makes America free and prosperous and the innovation marvel of the world and of all of human history, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It is.
It's just buried off into the weeds. And we got and I could, we could keep talking really, but the reality is we've just this week we've got more to share in the redacted than we have to say, because you can go and do some reading and start to understand where this issue affects you, because this is one of those things, even if you're not in the patents and intellectual property world, you have a say over who's in Congress and who is voting on these kinds of things. So you have an opportunity here to learn just a little bit about an issue, enough to ask, as we're still coming down. Missouri, our primaries aren't till August. So you want to know who's running for Congress. Well, we don't have a senator up this year. But as these primaries are marching along, you want to know who you're sending. Here's a whole new realm of questions that you can just moderately educate yourself on and ask. And you can start to get an idea where this person's worldview comes from. Do they understand how important patents and intellectual property are, even if they're not a patent holder and deeply involved in the details? We need folks there who understand enough of the constitutional principle to vote the right way and to make sure that the rights and freedom of inventors and intellectual property holders are upheld and are respected as our founding fathers intended, as the Constitution very clearly put down. Like I said, the only mention of the word right before the Bill of Rights, the actual numbered amendments, was this phrase: the right of authors and inventors to the fruits of their labor, to their own exclusive rights to their work, the constitutional language. So there's our pitch for patents.
Go file one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Make something up, go file one. Like we said, Phyllis Schlafly's father was a patent holder, and that's why she, among other reasons, she understood how important this could be. Small-time independent inventors, this is it, man. This is the ticket, and why America was awesome. The bomb. Not the bomb. Well, the bomb probably had one too, but
I don't know if they.
That was a government project.
I think they just made it illegal for everybody else to make bombs.
No fun. No fun. People ask you, how pro Second Amendment are you? Well, let's talk about nuclear codes. I'm kind of kidding.
We'll talk about that next week.
Only slightly kidding. Oh boy. But anyway, that's it. Anything else to add?
Nope.
We powered through and I talked a lot. I'm sorry. Did you have anything else to share?
Nope. You
Okay,
said
cool.
everything I was thinking.
You're about to learn a lot more tonight about these things.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another one and talk even more about patents.
You know what? And maybe there's a guest to pull on about patents at some point in the future, because guests may or may not be a thing for Caucus now. Teaser for next week.
Who knows?
You never know. You never know what might happen next week. But I will tell you this: new things are coming, and you want to tune in.
You're definitely going to want to see next week's.
Tune in and find out. Go to the socials, all the places that we stream: Facebook, X. Also Rumble, YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you are. Make sure also you're going to unauthorizedcaucus.com, and we will make sure that you get signed up there for the email address, for the email sign up. You'll get all the redacted emails and the warnings that we're going live, just like you did today. You don't want to miss out on those things. And then go and check out all these links about patents and share it with someone. Ask your congressman or whoever's running for Congress what they think about it and what their idea is, because it's important, even if we don't know it. Educate yourself, and we'll see you next Thursday. It'll be caucus time at noon. I took your words, nothing else?
I was about to say it, but...
Go ahead, sorry.
It's caucus time.
Yeah.